Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
Yes, indeed.
Ben Horowitz. Welcome,
All
sir.
right, what's happening?
How's
Ben,
it
what's
going?
happening?
Yeah.
Tell the people a little about you, man. Who is Ben Horowitz?
Well, I grew up in the East Bay, Berkeley, California, right next to Oakland. So I came up in kind of that thing.
Mm-hmm.
I went to school, became an engineer, and became a CEO. Then started a venture capital firm, and wrote a couple of books. One called "The Hard Thing About Hard Things," and then the new book, "What You Do Is Who You Are."
Yes, indeed. How to create your business culture.
Yes.
Tell us about your new book, man. How does this differ from the last book, The Hard Thing About Things?
Yeah, so it's way different. So this is about culture, to get into culture. Culture is a very complicated subject, particularly when you're talking about running an organization, because it's about like what people do, how they move. Do they return a phone call? Do they show up on time? These kinds of things. So it's not something that like they do when you're there. It's what they're doing when you're not there. And so like, how do you set that culture and how do you make it move is what the book is about. So I had to go kind of deep into a lot of things. Went back to the Haitian Revolution, went to prison, went to the way of the samurai, and Genghis Khan to try and get to the bottom of the issue.
Very various people, right?
Yes,
There's a lot of different type of people.
Yeah, a lot of different type of people for different types of reasons.
Yeah.
Right. You talk about the culture in prison, in particular with Shaka Senghor. He's been up here as well before.
Yeah, Shaka. That's
my guy.
And
Yeah,
how
yeah.
you really do have to make these decisions based on what will happen if I show certain weaknesses.
Yeah, so like let me give you an example of that. So I was talking to Shaka, and he's telling me, he goes, look, when I got to prison, they had a bunch of us in quarantine, and that's what they keep you in right before you go into general pop. So first day in general population, we're in the rec area, and a prisoner walks up to another prisoner and stabs him in the neck with the shank, throws the shank in the trash, goes to the cafeteria, and has a sandwich. And I look at that, and I'm like, whoa, can I do that? And I go, man, Shaka, you killed a guy to get in prison. You did that. And he goes, no, I didn't do that. He said, what I did was I'm in a drug deal. Guy jumps out of a car. I have a gun in my pocket. I react. I shoot him. He said, this guy spent like 2 weeks taking a 2-liter bottle, filing it into a weapon, and then decide, am I going to stab this guy in the stomach and wound him, or am I going to stab him in the neck and kill him?
Kill him, right?
And then he stabs him in the neck, keeps it moving to the fucking chow hall, and has a sandwich. I couldn't do that.
Yeah, one is self-preservation. Yeah. That's what I think Shaka's situation was. The other one was cold-blooded murder.
Cold-blooded murder. And so he said, look, I had to ask myself, because that's what it took to win in here. That's what it took to survive. And so, you look at that and you go, that's how that culture gets set. That's new employee orientation. That's how it is when you walk in, and a lot of people.
It's a new employee orientation.
That's what it is, man. That's how you get oriented. And, people don't come into prison as violent as they get because they get into that culture. And, that happens. And that happens with people running companies at a less violent scale. But, people set their values on the wall and all that kind of thing. Nobody pays attention to that. But your first day on the job, you walk in and you go, how do I get ahead here? And you see the person getting paid the most and you see them taking credit for somebody else's work. You adapt that.
Right.
You get oriented the
This
same
is what
way.
we have to
Now,
do.
you were talking about, I was watching a seminar you were talking about, or conversation. You were talking about culture versus perks.
Yeah.
now, explain that a little bit.
Well, look, a lot of people at their companies, they'll be like, oh, we have yoga classes. we
Google
got dogs
has
at work.
Google has amazing perks when you go to Google's office.
Google, they got the lunch area, and so and those are good, but that's not culture. That's not who you are. That's not how you represent in the world. You don't like represent like I'm yoga. Like if you're from Google, what people know about you, like did you get back to them? Like did you deliver what you were supposed to? All that kind of stuff. That's your real culture, and so I think people just get distracted. They think they have culture because they have special perks that people like, but that's a different thing.
You know what else is interesting? You talk these conversations about culture. Like culture can't be monolithic, right? Because there's all of these subcultures within a culture.
That's a really, really, really good point. And there's subcultures within a culture, and then sometimes you try and bring in a culture to change it. I'll give you an example of that. So Amazon is kind of known as one of the best cultures in technology business in terms of how they scaled and how they run it. They do a lot of things. And people like working there. Like people from my world really like working there. But then there was a New York Times article a bit back where this guy, David Streitfeld, like interviewed like 50 people, and they were all like, man, we hate this culture. And so everybody in Silicon Valley was like, whoa, what's going on? Well, it turned out that like for the tech people, the culture was good, but they hired a lot of people from retail sector, you know, Macy's, Nordstrom's, that kind of thing. And they're walking into this like, okay, we're working 12 hours, we're doing this kind of thing, we're like grinding it out, like we're having these super intense meetings. And they were like, whoa, like this is too stressful for me. So, you know, Amazon after that, they had to think about, okay, what's a subculture for the retail guys? Because that's not going to be exactly the same as what we have on the bigger Amazon. You know, you have some common elements, but not everybody, you know, if you get big enough, not everybody's going to be able to live in the same world.
All right.
Can we go back a little bit? Because a lot of people who, you know, we're talking about culture might not know who you are and what you've done in the tech world and how you even got into the tech world. For people that don't know, how did you get into the tech world and how did you get into investing and venture capital and all that?
Yeah. No, so it's a weird story. So, you know, I grew up in Berkeley. You know, I played for Berkeley High football team, go Yellow Jackets.
What was your
I went to a Berkeley.
I played center. So it was before the steroid era. I was very small. But I started. I started.
Center's usually huge.
Yeah. No.
All
Well,
right.
you
You
know,
on
it's
the
all
offensive line?
Yeah.
Your team must have lost
I
all
want
the
to play.
time.
No. We went to the
hitting you
playoffs. We went to the playoffs.
Okay,
No,
all right.
no, I was starting. But yeah, no, it was, I'm telling you, it was before they had the juice and so forth. But look, in high school, like the big guys in those days, they couldn't move. So that was the thing. And I just wanted to play.
Okay.
I wasn't that good an athlete, but I wanted to play. So I played what I could. But, you know, I went to school and I didn't know anything about computers when I got to college. It was a different era, you know, in the early 80s. But I took a class, you know, one of the intro computer science classes, and I was like, whoa. And the thing that got me was there was a proof that a guy by the name of Alan Turing did in like, I think it was like 1941, where he proved that if you built a computer that was what he referred to as Turing complete, then you could never build a machine that was more computational powerful. You could build a faster machine, but no machine could do what that machine couldn't. And so I knew then all that stuff I had, like clock, radio, calculator, you know, word processor, all that stuff going away because there was going to be one machine that ruled them all. And as soon as I realized that, I was like, I got to be in this field. And so I stuck in computer science, and then I built a company. Was what the hard thing about hard things was. It was hard to build, but I sold it to Hewlett-Packard for $1.6 billion.
Now, what company did you build?
It's called Opsware. Yeah. And then I started the venture capital firm because it was so hard for me to build a company. I wanted to create a firm that helped me do that. Along the way, I did have one stop. I had a very short rap career.
Were you a rapper?
Yeah.
What was your rap name?
TikTok.
TikTok.
Boo. Listen, if you trademark that, you could make money off it now.
Good. Yeah,
because of TikTok, the app.
Yeah. That's right.
It might
That's
be
right.
spelled
Should have traded.
It was funny. Charlamagne booed you, but ask Charlamagne what his rap name was.
It was better than TikTok.
What
was it?
Dizzy Van Winkle.
I'm going to go with TikTok. Why was
I
it
think
TikTok?
might be better, man.
So it was TikTok. So I was strategic. I was like, a lot of things rhyme with TikTok.
I thought you were about to say something like, oh, because I always knew what time it was.
Yeah, I'm on time. Yeah, never on schedule, but always on time.
And you made it sound so easy. So you built this company. How long did it take you? It made it seem like I built it on Monday and sold it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
How long did it take to build this company? What was the process for people out there?
Yeah,
that's thinking
well,
about
it's
doing
a
the same?
crazy thing. So like I started in 1999, which was kind of when, you know, everything was taking off. And like we came out of the gates so hot. In the third quarter after I founded it, so 9 months in, we booked $27 million on a quarter in 3 months. Like that's how fast it was taking off. But half our customers were kind of .coms, so like, you know, stuff started going real bad.
Yep.
And 18 months out, we went public because I couldn't raise money any other way. So like I took the company public. We had 2 months in trailing revenue, and like everything just started to unravel on me. And it was, the company itself was at that time called Loud Cloud. So it was the original cloud computing. Like if you look up cloud computing, The first time anybody calls it cloud, that was me.
Wow.
Like loud cloud.
Should have trademarked that
Yeah.
too.
I fucked it up. Sorry. Like, sometimes you don't think of what your good ideas are good.
Right.
But like, we just couldn't get out. All our customers were going out of business, so I had to transform the business. So I sold off the services part and turned it into a software company, and then spent the next 5 years building that. But it was rough. I mean, the stock went like to 35 cents a share. Everybody was. Business Week wrote an article on our IPO. It was called "The IPO from Hell." So that was me.
You never know what's going to happen. I saw you talked
Yeah,
about
well, you
WeWork.
don't quit. Like that's my thing is you don't quit. If you quit, you always lose.
So now you're lending to people. You're helping people start. their
Yeah, so I
businesses.
invest in companies. Right, exactly. So if you have a business idea, then we'll invest money for kind of equity interest in your company, and then
to help people,
hopefully
like
help you.
because people wouldn't help you, so you're giving it back.
Well, people would invest money in me, but they didn't know how to build a company.
Gotcha.
And so what I wanted to do is kind of help somebody, particularly an inventor. So what used to happen in venture capital before we started the firm was you invent something and then people put money in and then they remove you and they bring in a professional CEO to run it.
Right.
And so what I wanted to do is say, well, let me help an inventor learn to be a CEO because I learned to be a CEO, and let me build them a network that's like a professional CEO network so they can get things done in the world and kind of make things happen for their business.
Is it possible? Because I always think that it's hard for creatives to be CEOs and it's hard for CEOs to be creatives. Like it's rare that it's one and the same.
Well, no, like I think there's a good point in that, but I think it's easier for a creative and innovator to learn to be a CEO than it is for a CEO to learn to be a creative.
Absolutely.
And if you have both, that's the most powerful. So, if you think about the founders that have run their own companies for a long time, it's Bill Gates, Dave Packard, and Bill Hewlett, Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page. These are the best guys out there. Jeff Bezos, the very, very best of the best are all creatives. So, you want to, and that's what I want. Like that's what I'm about. I want to fuck with the best. I'm not dealing with the substitute, the renter-apper.
Now, when we talk about the tech companies, Elizabeth Warren at one time was trying to break up the tech companies. She believes that we should break up the tech companies. Do you agree?
Well, break them up into what? And then what does she think is going to happen, I guess is my question. Because, so my friend Andy Grove said, they asked him a long time ago, they were like, is the microprocessor good or bad? And he goes, that's the wrong question. That's like asking, is steel good or bad? It is. We got to deal with it. And I think, when you talk about social networks, like, they're here. We got to deal with them and understand them because they're not going away. And you break up Zuckerberg, but what are you going to do about Tencent, right? Like in China. And then like if Tencent's the dominant one, now you're playing by Chinese rules. People don't like Chinese rules. Daryl Morey retweeted something, and deleted it. And it's an international incident.
Yeah.
Like they're shutting down the NBA now.
Right.
And so, that's where it could go. So I don't think that. I think that like if you look at Mark Zuckerberg, this is a guy, people don't know this about him. He hasn't taken a salary or a share of stock like in the last 10 years. Like he's just doing it literally because he thinks it's important. He gave away 99% of his ownership in Facebook to like charity, like helping people, beat cancer, all that type of stuff. So like he is actually in it for the right reason and he wants to do the right thing. But like what the right thing is very complicated.
Right.
Like we never had 2 billion people like in the public square. We used to have 1,000 people and we had rules for that. And you could make people obey
It was easy
them.
to regulate.
Yeah, it's easy to regulate. Well, it's easy, to arrest that motherfucker for taking off his clothes in the public square. But like now you got 2 billion people. We don't even know what the rules should be.
Well, what do you think that Zuckerberg is missing culturally within his company? Like when you see the Facebook employees, calling on him to change the network's controversial rules on political ads, what do you think he's missing within his company?
Yeah, I think it's big, and then his company has kind of gotten bigger than the company mission. Now like it's a country. It's like the citizens of Facebook. We got 2 billion people around the world and so forth. So, like I think he's figuring that out. Like I just think it got so complicated. I always think, okay, if I was running Facebook, what would I do differently? And I'm like, man, like it's complicated.
Right, because things change so much from when you don't have that many people, and then now you have, like you said,
And let's remember why he built it, right? He built it so like you could like
For
make
college.
friends, like
college,
share
college.
photos,
He was
like
trying to
see
impress
the
a
cute
girl.
girls were, like
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Like he didn't think it was going to like move elections. He
Yeah,
didn't
man.
have any idea. And so, and the thing is only 15 years old. It's not that deep into it. Like it's probably, how old is the Breakfast Club?
9 years.
9 years.
Well,
So
now
like
you're
you
not
imagine, like if all of a sudden like people were like, man, you guys fucked up the election. You got Trump elected. You got Kanye on here and you got Trump elected. Like shut it down. You'd be like, what the hell happened?
Right.
We're just trying to tell people like about the culture, give them a little knowledge, that kind of thing. So that's really the situation he's in. It just happens so fast.
That's what I think they really want to regulate. They want to regulate his power.
Yeah.
He has too much power. They say no one man should have all that power. Zuckerberg has too much power.
Yeah.
They want to take power away from him.
But that
Yeah.
wasn't his intent.
Yeah, well, it was definitely not his intent. And then the power thing is a real thing because you have this interesting tension where you have business guys and then you have government guys. And the business guys like are trying to build their company bigger and get more powerful. But when they get to a certain level of power, the government guys get very nervous because if a company's more powerful than the United States, then like that creates an issue. So I think that is also a lot of what's going through the mind of the breakup. It's literally a power struggle.
Right.
And what the right answer there is, like in general, I think in life, it's good if nobody has too much power because, be it, Stalin and communist Russia or like, AT&T when they were at the height of their power. Like nobody handles that much power well.
Yeah, absolute power. What is it? Is it absolute power corrupts
Power
absolute?
corrupts, but absolute
Yep.
power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah. So like you do want to stop power before it gets to the absolute level for sure.
Why do you?
And
why
that's
do you,
like Xi Jinping, permanent head of China.
why do you still enjoy writing books? Because you don't have to do it, but it seems like you have a passion for it. You like doing interviews. You like talking to people. Why?
Yeah, well, like it's. I think it's a lot of reason you guys probably do the show is like I have ideas and like when I have a good idea I want to get it out. Particularly if I think that people are doing things wrong and like hey, like there's a right way to do it and I know what it is and so like let me see if I can explain it and get it out there and that's and then the other thing is I'm helping people try to build companies, which is like. And this is why I'm such a hip-hop fan. Hip-hop's about, like, something from nothing. Like, at its essence, it's something from nothing. The whole art form is something from nothing. And so, when you build a company, that's what you're trying to do. You have a dream. You're trying to make something out of nothing. And that is hard. And the guys who do it, the people who do it, the women who do it, they're the highest character people there is because they go through what it takes to get something from nothing. And so if I can help with that, that's my thing in life. So that's a lot of the reason why I try and put it out there.
Why is it important to highlight culture building as a key to a successful business?
Well, look, if you have a bad product and you have a great culture, your business is going to fail. Like I don't want to like confuse things on that.
It's
like
not this-
As long as your culture's good, doesn't matter what you have.
Yeah. So, but when you talk about building something, people sometimes say, "Oh, you're trying to get that money or this and that." And look, you are. Like I'm not like downing money or like incentive. That's real. But the most important thing when you really think about it is time. So people come to work for you. They're there most of their waking life. You're there most of your waking life. What is that time like? Like how did you treat each other? How did you treat the people you dealt with? What were you like to do business with? Like that thing, that's your culture. And to me, at least, that's the thing you look back on 30 years and say, okay, we did it right or we did it wrong. More so than like the deals we got or the, people we beat or all that kind of thing.
So basically, culture is how you make people feel. Because they always say, people will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Yeah, Maya Angelou. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a great quote, and that's exactly, that's it.
Now, you credit 4 models of leadership in this book. You named, I can't pronounce Toussaint. What is it, Toussaint?
Yeah, they call it Toussaint in Haiti, yeah.
Toussaint
Louverture,
the Samurai Genghis Khan, and Shaka Senghor. Why those 4 in particular?
Yeah, and all a little different. So let's start with Toussaint. So he led the Haitian Revolution, and the Haitian Revolution, it's really important that people know this. It's the only successful slave revolt in the history of humanity. So like you go back to the Bible days, you go back to, the Gauls under the Romans, the slaves of the Han Dynasty, none of them pulled it off. Only he did. Only in Haiti. And you got to ask yourself, well, like, why is that? Like, because like if you're a slave, you have motivation to revolt and win. Like it's not a motivation problem. But when you get really deep into it, it turns out to be an important cultural problem. An important cultural problem that kind of, can linger even like today when you think about it, which is slavery is super dehumanizing in that you don't own your tomorrow. So like you might think, okay, what are we going to do tomorrow? Who are we going to have on the show? What's our 5-year plan? If you're a slave, you don't do that because like you don't own tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Like, so there's no long term. And long term is the basis of trust. Because I'm going to do something for you today because I trust like down the line that's going to mean something for me, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's what trust is built on. If you're going to build an army to win a revolt, an army is all about, do you trust the order? Right. Like, because if I give an order and you don't trust it, you just have chaos. Mm-hmm. And so to get to an army out of a slave culture is the most difficult thing. Mm-hmm. But this guy, Toussaint Louverture, not only did he get to an army, but he defeated the British Empire at the height of its power. He defeated Napoleon Bonaparte, and Napoleon suffered more casualties in Haiti than he did in Waterloo. And forced him to sell us 14 states for $15 million. Toussaint did that. Like, that's why we have, Louisiana and everything kind of through that middle of the country is all because he beat Napoleon down to that degree. And that army that he built got all the way up to 500,000 people, which is the biggest slave revolt in the U.S. was 500 people. So, like, that's like the magnitude of what he did. But the way he did it is he moved the culture. And he did it in, like, amazingly ingenious ways. Mm-hmm. So it started with, okay, we're going to take the things that we do well, and I'm going to keep those. And that started, interestingly, with music. So he was like, I'm not going to start with a big army. We're going to have about 200 guys. And what we're going to do is these motherfuckers march in a line because they can't communicate. The only way they can communicate is they talk, right? Like, or pass a note. And that's the only way they can move the order around. I'm going to get the women at the top of the hill. They're going to sing. And encoded in the song is going to be the orders. And we're going to surround these guys. And on the, like, note, we're going to attack. And we're going to be completely coordinated. So he had a long-range encrypted communication, like, in 1791. Mm-hmm. So, like, that was the first thing he did. He kept the part of the culture that worked. Then he incorporated, when he defeated the French, he would take their officers and recruit them into his army. So he had slaves alongside Europeans, and he took the elements of European military culture and he incorporated it into his thing. And then he went about building trust. And he said, he was like, look, I'll relinquish my command before I break my word. Like, that's the thing. And he did things like, he was like, look, if you are married and you're in my army and you have a concubine, you're out. Like, because like, if you can't keep that word, I can't trust you to keep your word to me. And he started to move the culture. And then, like, a huge incentive in, like, because everybody's fighting for sugar. You got to understand, like, sugar was, like, the most valuable thing in the world. Haiti had more export income than the United States. So, like, sugar was that big. And he's got these guys, and everybody's fighting for sugar. So they're pillaging. Like, all the soldiers are all mercenaries. The French guys, the Spanish guys, the English guys, they're all pillaging. Toussaint says, no pillaging in my army, even though, like, he's dealing with guys who have no money, slaves. He's like, no pillaging. And the guys, the reports, like, when you read the reports of what happened, it's like, oh, the French came in and they just tore up the town and took everything. Toussaint came in with guys half naked, and they didn't take anything. And it was such a strong cultural statement that he had the support of the white women in Haiti. Mm-hmm. They called him father, like, because just the way he rolled through the town. And the crazy story of that, like, here's how important that ended up being. So Toussaint's his name, right? Toussaint Louverture. But slaves didn't have last names, right? He was Toussaint of the Breda plantation. He didn't have a last name. How did he get the name Louverture? Well, Napoleon Bonaparte, so mad at him because he's losing all this money. Everybody's dying. So he's screaming at his generals. He's like, how in the hell can you not get this slave? Like, how can you guys, my army, not get this slave? And they say to him, they go, look, we get him backed up. We surround him. But every time we think we have him, there's an opening. He renamed himself Toussaint the Opening, Toussaint Louverture. How about that? And, how did he get that opening, man? He had the local support because of the way he rolled, because of the way his culture was, which was better than anybody else's.
So, have you ever told Kanye this story?
I haven't told Kanye this story.
Could you please tell Kanye this story so we can stop saying that dumb shit about slaves not revolting and just move out the way when the Nets come and dumb shit like that? That's his guy. Kanye.
I will. I do like.
I like Ye too.
Kanye's an amazing genius.
He is a genius.
Musical
genius.
Artistic genius.
Yeah.
Very
important.
important to know
Conversations with Ye?
Yeah. No. Well, I've had a lot of conversations with Kanye over the years. And I won't represent Kanye because Kanye can represent himself.
Absolutely.
That's what he always tells me every time I see him.
I just understand how he has so much smart people around
but
him.
He's a great genius, and it's been an honor to know him.
We have to artistic genius.
Artistic genius. Yeah.
I was just curious if you were one of the people that helped him build his business, because at one time he needed help and was reaching out to people. Were you one of those guys?
Well, I did. We had a lot of conversations with it, and I would say I tried to help my friend Kanye build his business. I think he built it. He built it himself. I wouldn't take credit for that. But and I think he did a lot of good things. And I did it. Look, I had one conversation that was probably helpful when he really wanted to do his shoe deal with Nike because he loved Nike so much. And I was like, it's not even comparable what Adidas is offering you to, because he was getting a real piece of the action, and it really is his business. And it's amazing what he's done. So maybe one conversation might have helped him, but people always say Kanye needs better people around him. Kanye makes Kanye's own decisions. It's not the guys around him. They just listen to him.
I
didn't even put myself in that category.
You got to come back because we got Beto O'Rourke out there, so we're a little pressed for time. But I do want to say you are donating all the proceeds of this book to helping people come out of prison, right, and change the culture of prison. What does that look like to you? Changing the culture of prison.
Well, look,
100% of the proceeds.
Yeah, 100% of the proceeds. Here's the thing, right? So you look at my friend Shaka, and you go, is this guy a murderer, a guy who runs a big prison gang, and what happens in those? Or is he best-selling author, leader of the community, like the guy on the show? And the answer is, he was a product of his culture. He was both. What you do is who you are. He was a product of the culture, and then he had to change his culture. And I think we look at people in prison like their prison culture, but they don't have to be prison culture. You can change your culture, and we need to help make prison culture something that's a rehabilitative thing. And then when people come out, we need help them to get into a better culture.
Stop calling it a correctional facility if you're not going to really try to correct people.
Yeah, no, it's the opposite of correctional facility. So that's why I think it's one of the most important things we have to do. We're throwing away geniuses, and we're hurting ourselves, and we need to stop that.
All right. Well, we appreciate you for joining us.
All right,
Go get this. So Ben Horowitz. What you do is who you are. How to create your business culture.
All right.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Thank you.
Fun.
It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.